stay with our top story because thousands of supporters, as we mentioned at the outset, supporters of Nicolas Maduro have rallied in the Venezuelan capital Caracas to demand he be returned from the United States, where he's appeared in court. At that hearing in New York, Mr. Maduro described his seizure by U.S. forces on Saturday as a kidnapping. He and his wife are facing charges of narco-terrorism, conspiracy and weapons charges. The indictment states that for more than 25 years, they've enriched themselves by working with international drug traffickers to ship illicit drugs into the United States. Speaking in Spanish, Mr. Maduro called himself the President of Venezuela before he was interrupted by the judge. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, has said she wants to go back to her country as soon as possible. She'd been in hiding inside Venezuela for over a year, but left clandestinely for Norway in December to receive her Nobel Peace Prize. Speaking to Fox News, she expressed warm support for President Trump, even though he has so far declined to back her becoming Venezuela's new leader. He said at the weekend that she didn't have enough support or respect in the country.
Well, first of all, I'm planning to go back to Venezuela as soon as possible. As I've always said, Sean, every day I make a decision where I am more useful for a cause. That's why I stayed in hiding for over 16 months, and that's why I decided to go out, because I believed that at this moment I'm more useful to our cause, being able to speak out from where I am right now. But I'm planning to go as soon as possible back home.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line by Arise Special Correspondent James Blue, who is currently in Manhattan near the federal court building where Mr. Maduro's court appearance took place yesterday. James, good to see you again. First of all, we just heard from Maria Corina Machado there, who is the exiled opposition leader. What's been the reaction to President Trump's claim that her party, which won the election in 2024 but was turfed out by Mr. Maduro, does not have the support of the people? I mean, why would he cut the ground out completely from her?
Well, Charles, it's really good to be with you here down in Lower Manhattan, where the actual hearing took place, just a few blocks from where I'm standing now. What actually happened is that over the past few months, the Trump administration really discovered that the Machado team did not have either the political skill, the intelligence. They had none of the sort of requirements that was necessary to actually lead the country. So yes, they won the election, but the real Trump team was concerned that they did not have any of the skills necessary to actually lead the country. As you know, the Trump administration is trying to really focus on the oil distribution, and the thought was that stability is more important than democracy at this moment. And so one of the things that happened, I'll just give you a story that we learned. One of President Trump's envoys went to Venezuela shortly after he was elected last January and was really trying to secure the freedom for a number of Americans who were actually held there. The envoy met with President Maduro, and for Machado's team, that was completely a red line that they did not want the U.S. to cross. And so I think there was just a sense that they're very doctrinaire, they're very focused on sort of, are you with the government, are you against the government? And I think what the Trump administration wants to do is really find a workable solution that keeps things stable and allows them to really exploit and develop the oil reserves in the country.
And of course, as you said, James, you are in Manhattan, where Mr. Maduro made his court appearance yesterday. What do we know now about what Mr. Maduro's defense was? I mean, does it look like he has the legal support to fight these charges competently in court?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has the support to do that. And I think one of the things that we're going to see in the coming days is sort of how his team is going to begin to do that. His lead lawyer has a lot of experience in this, Charles. He was the lawyer for Julian Assange. As you know, Julian Assange is the one responsible for the WikiLeaks material that went all over the internet. He was wanted by the United States, and this lawyer was able to get a sentence and a conviction and a settlement, a plea bargain for Assange that never had him step on American soil. You'll remember that he was holed up in one of the embassies in London for many years, and it turns out he surrendered at a remote island in the Pacific to sort of U.S. authorities there, and then he is spent the most of his sort of suspended sentence out in Australia. In addition, I don't know if you remember the Enron scandal, which was all about sort of money and Wall Street and cooking the books. This lawyer was able to get one of those defendants off completely. So he's a very experienced lawyer, and he has a real sort of expertise in handling cases just like this.
And the Democrats have denounced what they called President Trump's imperial adventure in Venezuela. I mean, what do you make of that and the condemnation there's been, including from America's allies?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is a real challenge to what has happened in order to get President Maduro and his wife to the United States. And if you look at some of the pictures that have been shown of Maduro being, yeah, here's one, here's a very good picture. These are all DEA agents. These are United States federal law enforcement officials. And it was very, very important that they not be shown President Maduro with U.S. military officials. And so what they're saying is this is a U.S. law enforcement activity that was assisted by the U.S. military. And so what's going to happen, there's going to be sort of two kind of parallel tracks. There's going to be a lot of noise about the way and the how in terms of Maduro and his wife getting to the U.S. court. That's going to exist outside of the actual courtroom. That's going to exist at the UN and other sort of international fora. But inside the courtroom, there's a 92-year-old President Clinton nominated judge who apparently is knows nonsense and really knows his stuff and really knows how to run a big case like this. And so I think the Democrats are wailing and upset about the way he got there, and they don't want additional wars, and they don't want any type of interaction further within Venezuela. But the way the Trump administration is planning to run this, they are relying on the Maduro regime without President Maduro to make this happen.
Well, I mean, James, you are a student of history and you are a correspondent of note for many years. Can you be cognizant of history and say that America unilaterally initiating regime change?
Well, look, I think regime change has certainly been on the agenda by the United States and by previous administrations. Charles, I was in Iraq, I was in Afghanistan, and I saw those failures. And I also saw, after some sense of initial victory, I saw the way that things went pear-shaped once the public sort of rose up against the colonial ruler. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Trump administration's decided to stick with the technocrats within the Maduro government. In the vice president, they have someone who has reshaped what was a socialist statist economy into a market capitalist friendly economy. She happens to come from a very wealthy mercantile family. She was educated in Europe. Her family her father's a big industrialist. And I think they think they think that she is the type of person who can play ball and sort of help them revitalize the oil industry, which will then bring more money to Venezuela and more money to the United States.
Briefly, James, because we're pretty much out of time, as we look at the philosophy that seems to drive the Trump administration, a philosophy that is governed by strength, by force, and by power, should we be worrying and wondering what the US might do next? Any idea which way Mr. Trump might be going?
We don't know exactly which way Mr. Trump is going. We think that he wants to get and extract as much from Venezuela as soon as possible. And so we don't exactly know whether he's going to return to support for the opposition leader, or whether he's going to continue to support the vice president that they've installed as the interim president. This is a very, very sort of new face for the Trump administration. They came in saying that they didn't want any foreign entanglements. This is quite a foreign entanglement. But, I think, Charles, one of the things that they are trying to say will make this different is that by controlling the oil, by controlling the resource, they will have the ability to make things happen in a way that the U.S. did not have in Iraq, and certainly there were not those resources in Afghanistan. So we'll just have to see. I do think it's very possible that if the public rises up against this, if there is unrest, if there's instability, the U.S. might have to send troops. And I think President Trump, more than anything, does not want to send troops. Charles, for me, the biggest concern is that this action by the United States really, really undermines the effort by the Trump administration to bring peace to Ukraine. Because effectively, the U.S. has done very similar things that President Putin has suggested that he wanted to do in Ukraine. I think the other issue that we really have to sort of look for, what will China do as it relates to Taiwan? Fact, but you're free and able to do what it is you want to do. I think that is really, really challenging, and I think that is perhaps the biggest worry. Will this sort of prompt other states that are of equal sort of size and might of the United States to do similar things? And if that happens, where will we be?
James, thank you very much indeed. James Blue is Arise special correspondent. He was talking to me from Manhattan, just outside the courtroom where Mr. Maduro appeared yesterday.